Very much indeed. OK, we're going to move on to another question, and we'll have Stephen Dodds, who's a tour guide from Newton Abbey. Stephen, it's all yours.
Is Gerry Adams now a liability to Sinn Féin and Republicans, both north and south of the border?
Is Gerry Adams now a liability? Recent reawakening of questions about his role in the disappeared, and also linked, of course, to the conviction of his brother Liam on sex abuse charges, have raised questions about Gerry Adams' leadership. John O'Dowd, do you want rid of him?
Well, I asked the question to myself, if Gerry Adams is a liability to my party and to the future direction of Republican politics, why are so many enemies of Republicans looking rid of him? Because when I see anti-peace process Republicans on the television telling alleged stories with Gerry Adams, or their feelings on Gerry Adams, or how Gerry Adams is damaging Republicans, I say to myself, those are the same people who walked away from Republicanism because Gerry Adams was bringing us into the peace process, and they disagreed with the peace process. When I see elements of the mainstream media concerned about the future of Sinn Féin because Gerry Adams is leading them, I say, hold on, that's the same mainstream media who for years has been attacking Sinn Féin on a wide variety of issues. I say to myself, well, they're not genuinely concerned about the well-being of Sinn Féin or Gerry Adams, or indeed the victim of Liam Adams either, because it's Anya Adams who's been abused by the media and by certain politicians, particularly in the South, again, over the allegations they're trailing through the media.
Well, to be fair, she came forward. She rejected invisibility. So
No, hold on. I'm not in no way pointing any finger of blame at the victim of this crime.
No.
And don't try and suggest that I am.
I wasn't trying to do that. You were saying that the media were dragging her through it. I'm saying she volunteered to come forward.
The allegations, there is certain
anonymity.
sections of the media and certain politicians who are not interested in the victim of the crime. They're interested in political scaremongering.
Anyway, bottom line is, Gerry Adams has your full and unequivocal support.
Yes, he does. And
forever.
Forever, until Gerry Adams stops standing at our Dash, our annual convention, and says, I want to be leader of Sinn Féin, then he will continue to have my support.
Rita.
I think there's great danger of our politicians using politics as a kind of other type of showbiz for the less talented. I just think that we are going round in circles, and I actually don't really care very much about our politicians, to be honest with you, because I don't think they have any leadership. It is showbiz for the ugly, present company excluded.
But these are important questions, the questions about what Gerry Adams may or may not have known about the disappeared, what his role was or may not have been in the ultimate conviction of his brother. Do you not think those are important questions?
I think I'm not naive enough to think that everything Gerry Adams has said is true. I don't think a lot of what our politicians say are true. A lot of it's to do with perception and about encouraging people to vote in traditional ways. I think we singularly fail to have leadership in this country.
OK.
I mean, do you know what I think is more important at the moment than Gerry Adams? The possibility of fracking in Fermanagh.
All right.
An incredibly beautiful
that's a question maybe for another night.
I would like these people
we must address the question.
I think in terms of Rita's commentary, which is fair enough, see to dismiss politics out of hand. It plays into anti-peace process elements. And I'm not talking about politicians. Or any of the politicians here.
I'm very political.
Anyway, we're getting right away from the question, which we have to cover. So
dismissing politics out of hand, that politics is unimportant.
I'm very political, but I don't think we have effective politics
through the chair,
in Northern Ireland.
John, through the chair, please.
Stand for election.
Naomi, would you please address the question of Gerry Adams being a liability or otherwise to Republicans north and south?
Well, I'm not really in a position to judge whether Republicans think Gerry Adams is a liability or not. That's a matter for them to make that decision themselves. However, what I think it does show is just how sordid things were in Northern Ireland, not just in terms of what one community did to another community, but the kind of injustices that were meted out within families and within communities during the Troubles because of the very warped sense of loyalty that people had to different causes. The fact that people didn't feel they could engage with the police, the fact that they didn't feel that they had recourse to justice, the fact that people opted to go to paramilitaries to seek a resolution rather than go through the normal justice system, and how justice was denied not just on the big ticket sectarian issues that we focus on so much, but actually on the core issues. Things like child abuse, things like abuse of young people, those things also were not given their prominence during the Troubles because everything was focused on something else. That's an injustice, and that injustice will out too, and that's why walking away from our past past isn't a solution. We are going to have to confront our past, deal with our past, and that includes everyone in this room, and it includes Gerry Adams too. And there will be no walking away from what he did, what he knew and didn't know. It will have to be acknowledged by everyone in the community what happened, and we need to find ways then of trying to heal the harm that has been done.
Arlene.
Well, I think essentially there's two questions. In relation to his leadership of Sinn Féin, as Naomi says, that's a matter for Sinn Féin and they will make up their own decision in respect of that. As to his credibility, he hasn't had any credibility for quite some considerable time. I mean, this insistence that he's not a member and never was a member of the IRA is just laughable and nobody believes him. And then, of course, the whole issue in and around the disappeared, which was a hugely difficult programme to watch, I have to say, but a very important programme to have been made. So his credibility is nowhere. And I mean, just to read his point about politicians in Northern Ireland and to pick up a point that Naomi made, I mean, there was a culture of secrecy, particularly in and around child abuse in the 70s, 80s and 90s, and I've seen it in my own constituency. And you may poo-poo politicians, Rita, and you're perfectly entitled to do that. Everybody has a right to do that. But if you're sitting in my constituency office and dealing with people who have suffered from historic child abuse going back to the 70s and 80s, I tell you what, I do think that we do quite a good job in our constituency offices.
Right.
You may disagree with that, but that is a very fundamental part of what we do. You may see us on the TV and think that we fight and we do all of those things, but we deliver a service. And that's always
this
what
is
I
not
have
a
been
party
about.
political broadcast.
No, but it's important that we know what politicians
Billy,
do on a
quickly.
day-to-day basis
Well, I mean, I
instead
think
of
it, I'm probably the last person I want to ask this question.
Clearly.
But I mean, I think that there's, from looking at it from the outside, there are three things that I suppose in many ways that has hung Gerry Adams from sort of even people who are not involved sort of with republicanism, and that is, the non-reporting of his niece's rape.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, John, let's not argue about...
Well, let's be factual.
I am being factual.
But
at
you're
the
not
time.
being factual.
Well,
it was reported.
Well, the whole issue is what he's talking about.
The issue I'm talking about. And the second bit is denial that he was ever in the IRA. And I suppose the third bit is around the disappeared, and those are the three things that people will talk about
for
and remember Gerry
Republicans
Adams
to decide.
Yeah.
What does our questioner think? Do you think there's Stephen, what the answer to your own question is?
Well, I would say it's becoming a bit of a liability, and I would, in general, just my personal opinion, I would welcome any severing of a criminal past that Sinn Féin may have, and I would just welcome that for the future. So I think it's time maybe to move on, but that's only my opinion.
All right.